Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Strategoi video. Ryan here with a continuation of our Battletome analysis series, which is using OBR as a case study, this time focusing on the enhanceable heroes. And I'm glad we're picking back up with this. This is a series that we had started a little bit after the original 3rd edition Battletome release. Obviously some things have happened in the meantime, so keep a grain of salt in mind here when listening to this. Not only was the point that I was listening to it from an uneducated point, and you're seeing me become educated about the book in real time, but also this was recorded while we were still in the GC season, so not in the current GHB. So if anything seems particularly out of date, it's because it was intentionally built so for this series. It's kind of a product of its time, including not having looked at the FAQs plural yet, which I'll be also adding to this series as a kind of capstone at the end there. But anyway, also in Strategoi news, we've recently hit the over 2,000 subscribers mark. So thank you to everyone that helped make that possible. Jonas and I have some amount of thank yous and special content that we're preparing for this. But so keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, just keep boosting the signal the normal way, and maybe we'll hit 3,000 before you know it. All right, let's see more about what's in store for this video. Here's kind of our track of table of contents that we've been following here. In the series, if you haven't been following along, we started off with the battle traits in general for the OBR book. Then we moved on to battle line units, unconditional and conditional. Then the 6 sub-factions before knocking out the spell lore. Now we're covering the enhanceable heroes, as in the non-unique heroes that can become your general and therefore take command traits and artifacts before we actually talk about those artifacts. And then, of course, we'll be covering the rest, which is quite a lot of other things, especially once you include the FAQ stuff I'll be talking about and points changes later on. But that's kind of where we are in the series. Okay, and as a reminder for the series goals, the series is less about OBR in particular, though for those of you out there that are big OBR fans that we've gathered really like this series, and thank you for your continued support of the series. This series is really just using OBR as an example of what breaking down a Battletome looks like for someone who has done it literally with every book in 3rd edition and a number of 2nd edition books, and who takes lots of notes in those books, which might not be to everyone's taste. But I think seeing the way I'm breaking this down in real time might give you some new thoughts on how you, as either a newer player to the game or an experienced player, how you might approach it, or what you might glean from my way of looking at it. There's always room for improvement, of course, from my end as well. So it's an experienced Battletome analysis, and it's a tool for learning one's army with a new book. As we mentioned, it's not a Battletome review per se, but obviously I'm covering literally everything in the OBR book that I can think of. Of course, I'll be getting some of those things wrong because it's meant to be coming from an uneducated perspective, as I mentioned before. But it should be applicable to all armies, not just OBR. One thing I did in listening back to this that I realized that I got wrong, because I didn't even know it at the time, was the sequence of endless spell usage for predatory endless spells at the end of the hero phase. I didn't realize this, but the moving of all your things happens at a very specific time in the hero phase, and it is not up for choice for whoever's turn is taking place. So it's one of those things you learn about later on in looking at these things, and you realize, oh, I overlooked that in the core rules. So take a look at the endless spells once again, and you'll notice that it is not a free to choose a step of the end of the hero phase. All right, without further ado, here's the content.
All right, so moving on to the heroes that don't have the unique keyword, making them eligible for either command traits or artifacts. Again, the reason I like to look at this before I've looked at the command traits and artifacts is because I don't know who could take what. I don't have necessarily a good sense with a book like this that I don't know that well, who even qualifies as generic, what their abilities are. If, for example, one of the command traits or artifacts says that it amplifies one of their abilities, I'd have no idea what it's talking about. Then I need to flip back and read it. So it's better for me to have a feel for it. And it also helps me get to know the army because, of course, the power pairs and buff pieces are important components of what makes the army tick, right? Now, if this had been a book that I know well, like Ideneth, they're not going to change a whole lot from book 1 to book 2 to book 3, whatever. And I already know who has what keywords and who gets what. Now, of course, you can discover that they've changed something later on that makes it, different. For example, in Tzeentch, the Gaunt Summoners used to have the Arcanite Immortal keywords, I believe, and now they don't qualify for those anymore, which could throw someone off. But usually, that's not such a big deal. So, as we've already discussed, the Mortizan guys, there are, I think, 4 of them that are generic heroes. We've got the Mortizan, Ossifector, Bone Shaper, Soul Mason, and Soul Reaper. Can all have that Mortizan keyword, and therefore, if they're your general, unlock the Immortus Guard and Necropolis Stalkers as battle line. So that could be definitely something I'm interested in, especially considering their GCs as non-unique characters. So let's look at all 4 of these guys plus the cavalry guy that's generic. And then we'll take a look at the command traits and artifacts. Okay, so Ossifector is here. He's the keywords, obviously he's a wizard. I think all of these guys are wizards, so there you go. And he's a Mortizan, which kind of goes without saying. And then he's an Ossifector. Interestingly, unlike some of the other units that we saw before, they separated Mortizan as its own keyword, and then Ossifector is neat Mortizan Ossifector, just Ossifector. So that's kind of interesting. Looking at his wheel, I'm not going to do too much analysis of the heroes because at the end of the day, they're just hero profiles. They're all kind of the same. I would eventually do this for myself, like you've seen with the other War Scrolls, but in the interest of saving time, I'm not going to bother with it here. For example, their damage output is average. It's just what you expect of a hero. For example, without reading any of this stuff, 3 attacks, 2 damage, 3s -1. That's 2.67 if he wasn't doing exploding hits. And then if he with exploding hits, that goes up to 3.33. So, okay, fine. But how often is this guy actually going to get combat? So it's not really worth talking about right now, and they probably all have very similar profiles. So let's look at what's actually interesting. 4+ save, sure. 5-inch move, that looks like it's pretty average for the army. 5 wounds, that's normal. He's a 1-level wizard. It's important to keep in mind that sometimes wizards will be able to cast 1 spell and unbind a different number of spells. So X and Y are not necessarily the same there. Usually it is. We don't see it too often, but it's easy to miss if you don't look for it. So sometimes I try to just double check real quick. All right, so I'm going to start with going backwards through his War Scroll because I always do spells apart from what's going on. So I can see that we've got, let's see, 1, and then it looks like he chooses abilities here. So we've actually only got 1 big ability and then we got a spell. With these guys, kind of like how I do command abilities separate, I put my spells in a box. So I know where the spell is. It's almost always in the right-hand corner. And then just kind of see it as what it is. It's like its whole own thing unto itself. And I'm going to treat it just like I did the spells when we were talking about those. So it's a spell casting value 5, range of 24, and 3 different friendly. Pick 3 different friendly Gothazar Harvesters, Mortek Crawlers, or Morghast units in any combination that are wholly, so there's the underline, within range to benefit from the Refined Creations ability instead of 1 unit that is wholly within 12. Okay, so that's one of these rare things where his spell is amplifying his own ability. So this is funny that I chose to go backwards on this one because, well, I need to know what Refined Creation is. So let's go back. Refined Creations. In your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Gothazar Harvester, Mortek Crawler, or Morghast unit, wholly within 12 of this unit, and pick one of the following augmentations to apply to that unit until your next hero phase. The same unit cannot be picked to benefit from this ability more than once. So what I'm sensing from the army is they like modular play style, meaning you have certain units that like to choose different options, and you're kind of flexible with what you do. And this is obviously for their strategic kind of militaristic theme. This is very logical. It's you gotta, for a relatively limited number of models in their range, you've got quite a lot of choices with those models because of how modular they are. So let's take a look at what these abilities are. We can improve the Ren characteristic of that unit's melee weapons by 1. Now, the thing is, we have studied the 2 Morghast units. These are the 2 bigger guys with wings. I like them. Improving their Ren's pretty cool. I remember one of them had 5.00 at -2, so bumping that up to -3, not complaining. That's per model. So that -3 is functionally mortal wounds, unless they've got a 3+ or better save, right? So, and then this is also the Gothizzar Harvester and the Mortek Crawler. Now, from what I know, the Harvester might want to be in combat. I haven't analyzed it, but the Mortek Crawler certainly doesn't. It's the only ranged attack you've got. So you're probably not picking that for that. We haven't covered those 2 War Scrolls, but that'll come eventually. Okay, accelerated calcification. The first wound or mortal wound caused to that unit in each phase is negated. Yeah, this really depends on... That's interesting that you can just put it on like a regular unit, not on like a hero. That's something you see more often on big, like obviously Manfred has it, and then the Ironclad can take, and KO can take a great engine work that kind of does this. It's kind of interesting because you're putting it on something else, and 2 out of 3 of these you don't probably want to be in combat too much. I don't know about the Harvester, maybe, but the Morghast do. It's interesting. Okay, I could see it. An enhanced claw span. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a missile weapon by that unit, so only one of those units to my knowledge has a missile weapon, that would be the Crawler, is 6. The attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. So it gives them exploding hits instead of, well, not instead of, but just like the Naderite weapons that obviously it's not benefiting from. So, okay, cool. Let's see. One of the questions you have to ask with hero abilities like this is, can they stack? So it says you can pick for one friendly, in your hero phase, you can pick one friendly of these 3 units wholly within this unit and pick one of the following augmentations to apply to that unit. The same unit cannot be picked to benefit from this ability, which is Refined Creations, not the augmentations themselves. I think that might be an easy thing for people to miss that don't really know how the wording of Warhammer Rules goes. But when it says this ability, it means Refined Creations, which is an umbrella for all 3 of these augmentations. So it can't receive 2 out of 3 of them. So for example, on your Morghast unit, you can't give it this and the defensive buff. You can't give it the extra rend and the defensive buff. That said, there's nothing in this wording that makes it so you couldn't take multiple Os effectors and have them all do this ability for free. Keep in mind, this is not a command ability or a spell that has some chance of not going off. It gets to go off no matter what, as long as you're within range and you've got a unit that qualifies. So that's kind of cool. Now let's go back to the spell. If successfully cast, the caster can pick up to 3 different friendly units of this kind in any combination that are wholly within range to benefit from the Refined Creations ability instead of 1 that is wholly within 12. So it's 24, it doubles the range, and it lets you pick 3. So in that sense, you don't need to bring multiples to this guy. That said, let's see. I wonder, this could be an FAQ question, but all that this says is you pick 3 different friendly units in any combination. But it doesn't, so that would replace this. You can pick 1 friendly unit, but then it says, and pick one of the following augmentations. So it doesn't say that you get to pick different augmentations if you like. And I wonder, I think that was probably their intent, was that for each one of those, you get to start at this over again and choose whichever of these you like. You could triple up, you could double up and do 1. You could do all different ones. That's my guess, but the wording technically doesn't say that right now because it didn't change the 1 here. So I'm gonna write a little note here, FAQ, just to, if I ever go through and write an FAQ on this, or it's alerted me to, this might be a problem. So anyway, there's number 1. Now the question is, how much does this guy cost? Let's look. The Os effector is 120. Is this the new guy? I am pretty certain this is the new guy. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he is. So I guess that's kind of cool. They're giving some more interaction. I don't know if they used to have a lot of interaction with the harvesters or the crawlers or even the Morghast, but this is definitely doing something. So, okay, cool. So we've seen one. All right, I'm gonna go over here to the bottom right since it's just easier to shift over there. The Mortisan Soul Mason. I know for a fact this guy existed before. I remember this name. He is also a Mortisan, of course. He's got one more wound than the other guy. Same save, same move, all bravery, all that. It's important to note, just because the army's battle shock immune doesn't mean bravery buffs couldn't be nice for heroic recovery, right? But it looks like all heroes have 10 bravery anyway. I guess that's a death thing. So in Chaos, you see that the demons have 10 bravery, but the heroes, the mortals, often don't. But anyway, this guy's a 2-caster, and it's 2/2, so that's good. If he's part of an OCR Bone Reaper's army, it knows all the lore, spells from the lore of Ossian sorcery in addition to the other spells it knows. Now, by the way, the reason it has to say in addition to the other spells is because they're worried that you might interpret that as, well, if you know all the lore, then you can't learn like Flaming Weapon or Ghost Mist or whatever. Or the spells that all wizards know. It's just covering their ass. He's also got a mount, which means he qualifies for what I said before in the reroll charges sub-faction for cavalry. He's going to qualify for that. Now, it's worth pointing out, it's just good to know, this is with the ossified claws. The mount is usually the last listed attack profile here. But if you give him a command trait or an artifact, and it applies to his weapons, it doesn't apply to the mount unless it says otherwise. So this is another reason that it's good to know this, and especially if it's a companion, it's easy to overlook. All right, so I'm gonna start with his spell. Oh. Okay, interesting. This ability also interacts with the spell, but let's try starting with the spell again and see what happens. I think this guy's definitely gonna cost more than the other guy because he's a 2-caster. He's got 1 extra wound. He knows the whole lore. And he's got an extra melee profile. Even if it's not good, it's still something. So Soul Guide. It's a spell that has a casting value of 6 and a range of 24. If successfully cast, pick one friendly Mortek Guard, Cavalos, or Cavalos Death Riders. So this is your basic guys. Your 2 unconditional battle line. That unit wholly within, so wholly again, range invisible to caster. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by the unit into your next hero phase. Now, I'm underlining melee even though technically they don't have any shooting attacks, so it's not necessary, but I do it anyway, force a habit. Okay, so you're picking 1 unit of your 2 basic guys and adding 1 to wound rolls. Well, that's good because we have ways to get +1 wound, or +1 to hit, functionally through, obviously, all out attack, and then this would be on top of that. So you're getting, +1/+1, and you're functionally getting yet another +1 on the +1 to hit, or on the to hit through exploding hits. So that's kind of cool. Though not on the mounts for the Cavalos Death Riders, but this includes the mounts. Now, what I just said about artifacts and command traits not applying to mounts by default, spells and abilities generally do. So it's good to know. Okay, and then looking at his regular rule. At the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for this unit. On a 1, nothing happens. On a 2 to 5, this unit can immediately attempt to cast Soul Guide, even if a casting attempt has already been made. This is the end of your hero phase. I missed that. I might have said it, but I missed it in my head. Has already been made for that spell in that phase. On a 6, this unit can immediately attempt to cast Soul Guide D3 times, even if a casting attempt has already been made for that spell in that phase. Interesting. We don't really have a whole lot of abilities like this. So you have to let all of your hero phase play out. Some things that typically happen at the end of your hero phase are moving predatory endless spells, and that's about it. So because it's your turn, you'd get to choose which one happens first. But yeah, so then you get to maybe do this buff a couple more times. So that's pretty cool. And you have a pretty generous range of 24 inches, even though it's wholly within. So you can be giving it out again, and you have to cast it again. Like, it has to be successful, but it's on a 6, and there's a good chance, keep in mind, at the end of your hero phase. I wonder. At the end of your hero phase, can they unbind your spells? Because unbinding and casting happens in your hero phase. Can opponent unbind? That's a good question. I don't know what the rules are on that. But in any case, if it's at the end of that turn, you haven't rolled this yet. They don't know if you're going to get more chances to do it. And honestly, this spell isn't that good that they're probably going to want to wait for it. But like, there's a very good chance they will have already used their spells. Now, something that I've seen, their unbinds, I mean. Something I have seen happen a number of times in this type of scenario is that someone will take like heroic willpower for an extra unbind on one of their non-wizard heroes, and then they think they're going to need it, and then you just fail to cast it, and then it just falls off. Well, this would actually give them a second chance to do it, but that's about the only exception to that I'm really seeing here. And then just quickly looking at his attack profile just to make sure it's not anything amazing. It's not. We're talking about cumulatively, it has the same to hit and to wound. We're talking about cumulatively for 6. It's the same thing as the other guy combined, except the mount's not getting the exploding hits. So it's a little less actually. So, okay. Let's see. What do we think the Soul Mason is? I'd say like 160 maybe? Soul Mason. Oh, I got it right on the nose. Technically, it was loaded in my brain by like accidentally kind of glossing over it earlier, but I did not actually remember that. But that seemed about a fair amount compared to what this guy is. He's not like broken, like putting him too much higher than that doesn't feel like he's adding enough, but a 2-caster, you can't complain about that. And then he's kind of like a 2-caster plus. Yeah, and he knows the whole spell lore. That's pretty cool. All right, the last one on this pair of pages is the Bone Shaper. And then we've got, of course, one more plus the Leech Cavalos guy, if that's his name. I forget. He's also a Mortisan. He's back to 5 wounds, 4 up save, 5 inch. Oh no, he's 4 up save. Yeah, everything's the same as the Ossifector, but not the Soul Mason. So he's going to be cheaper. He's a 1-cast wizard, same melee profile as the Ossifector. All right, let's look at his spell. Shard Storm. If you want to get spicy, you could call it Shart Storm. You know, I guess these constructs gotta shit sometime. Tell you what, that Gothazar Harvester definitely looks like he needs to. All right, so it's a casting value 5, range of 18, 6 to pick 1 enemy unit. Like I said, usually enemy units as targets for spells are not Holy Within, and sure enough, it's not Holy Within. Visible, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit for each 5+. Okay, so it's an anti-horde spell. The easy way to look at this is you just say, okay, a 5-up is a 2 out of 6 chance that goes off, so that's 1/3. So that's 0.33 mortal wounds per model. That's okay. The best anti-horde spells in the game that I'm aware of are at 50% of the amount of models worth of mortal wounds. So this is certainly better than 6s, but it's not amazing. But seeing what we've seen before, I wouldn't be surprised if this ability, the Bone Shaper ability, allows him to boost his spell somehow. But in a quick glance, it looks like it doesn't. Okay. In your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Ossiarch Bone Reaper's unit within 6, not holy. If that unit is not an Immortus Guard or Necropolis Stalker's unit, you can either heal up to 3 wounds allocated to that unit, or if no wounds have been allocated to that unit, you can return a number of slain models to it that have a combined wounds characteristic of 3 or less. If that unit is an Immortus Guard or Necropolis Stalkers, and remember that those are the 2 units that these types of GCs turn on as battle line. So that's something. If it is those 2, you can either heal up to 3 wounds allocated to that unit, or if no wounds have been allocated to that unit, roll a dice. On a 3+, you can return 1 slain. Okay, so they have 5 wounds, those guys, which is, it's interesting. They're basically saying, you can heal any unit you want in your army, or resurrect anything if it qualifies for 3 wounds, a wounds characteristic of 3 or less. By the way, that's kind of risky with certain units. Like, obviously, if you've got a unit that has 3 wounds and you're trying to bring 1 back, that's a 33% chance it goes off, which is still better than a rally. I mean, it's basically a 5-up rally on one where you get to roll 1 die. So if you target these 2 units, you can still choose to heal 3 wounds. So like if they've taken up to 4 wounds, they would still qualify for that. But if no wounds have been allocated to that unit, roll a die. On a 3-up, you can return 1 slain. So that's on a 2 out of 3 chance that you bring 5 wounds back, which is pretty good. So definitely not complaining. It certainly wants you to lean into that, but these guys with this keyword kind of implicitly want you to do that anyway. His spell, his anti-horde spell's okay. And his outputs, his melee output's nothing to scream about. But again, I have no idea what command traits and artifacts you can put on these guys, so maybe that has some value. It's also worth pointing out that with these types of resurrection abilities that either heal or, if no wounds have been allocated, let you bring back. Because the reason they have to put that clause in there is because you could definitely have a model that only has one wound assigned to it, and then you've already lost a whole other model, and it would be better for you to just bring a whole other model back than just heal one wound to a thing, but they don't let you do that. So these spells sometimes end up depending very much on the state of the battlefield at the moment of this attempt to heal or resurrect. So sometimes it's out of your control. Again, with all of these, I'd be writing more about their stats, but it's not worth doing here. I'm just trying to save time. All right, so here, let's go on to the Mortizan Soul Reaper. I'm pretty sure this guy was also pre-existing. So let's see. Okay, he's got 2-inch range on his weapons, which already makes him a little different. The wheel is the same. This is the same, except he's got Soul Reaper. He's a 1-level wizard. Oh, I didn't check the price on the Bone Shaper. I think he's probably in the range of like 110 to 130. Bone Shaper. He's 120, so there we go. Okay, Soul Reaper. So this guy's a little, not better. Oh, he's a little better. He's got 1 better rend. But functionally, he's got the same melee profile, and he's just got more range, so you can put him behind a unit of some guys. So maybe he's going to have a more battle kind of thing going on. Let's look at his spell here. Okay, so he's got a casting value 6 for this spell, 12-inch. If successfully cast at the start of any one phase before your next hero phase, you can pick one enemy unit within range and visible to the caster. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If that unit is within 3 inches of the caster, it suffers 3 mortal wounds instead of D3. Okay, this is an amped up Arcane Bolt. That's what this is. I had to read that. It was a weird wording, but this is basically the same thing. It's a 12-inch range. It costs 1, casting value is 1 higher than Arcane Bolt. It works the same way, where it has to go off the start of any given phase, but if you lose it if you don't use it by the start of your next hero phase. And if you're within 3 inches, it does more damage. But it's amped up because its default setting is D3 instead of 1, and its souped up setting, if you're within combat, is 3. So, okay, it's like a extra Arcane Bolt. Which, if the guy wants to be in combat, then you do want to, like, maybe that actually will happen. And then the Soul Reaper ability, each time this unit fights, you can say it will unleash a Reaping Strike. If you do so, add 2 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's melee weapons until the end of the phase. But this unit can only target enemy units that have 5 or more models. Okay. Okay, so you can boost his attacks. That's going to be increasing because he has 3 attacks now. Adding 2 to that is a 67% increase, output increase, which is pretty good. So if you know you're going up against an enemy unit that has 5 or more models, then go for it. This guy would also be a decent candidate to fight in the hero phase because you can choose this. You can turn this on in the hero phase if you per phase. It's like not for the whole turn. So you could kind of customize it based off of what unit you're in. I wouldn't per se go throwing this guy in the middle of melee, but if you're trying to build a heavier hitting list that's not built around some of the synergies we saw with the other Mortisans, I could see maybe taking him. Points wise, I'm gonna say this guy's also right there at like 120. I can't see how this guy would be. Yeah, he's exactly 120. All right, these guys are all just kind of mix and match, kind of like side grades. Of the 4 Mortisans, let's see. I haven't covered Vok Martian, obviously. That's just where I flipped to. The Ossifector. I do like the Ossifector, the new unit, for how modular he is to me as a kind of Johnny player. Yeah, everyone's got all three types of personality things, but I'm mostly Johnny, meaning I like kind of list techie things and coming up with creative combos and making combos go off. I like his ability. It needs an FAQ, I think, but I do like that. And the model's cool enough. The Bone Shaper and the Soul Mason. I like that the Soul Mason knows the whole lore. I'd consider the Soul Mason for sure. His spell's okay, but the Bone Shaper, resurrecting things and then doing anti-horde, that's only okay. I mean, healing things is cool. It depends on how much healing you need. So that's my thoughts on the Mortisans. And then let's flip over to the only other generic hero that I'm aware of in the book, because everyone else is either like an Underworld's warband or like a pre-existing famous guy like Nagash or Archon. So this is the Horsey Boy. There was a time when they released a Christmas box, a battle box or whatever it was, that had, I think, a bunch of cavalry for OBR in it, and that looked cool. And then he was also, if I'm not mistaken, in the box for Broken Realms, but of course you can't really find those anymore. So if this guy's good, I would love for a cavalry army to be good, but GW often drops the ball on that. All right, so just looking at his keywords, we see something new, which is Liege. I guess that's going to pop up somewhere, but this is our first time seeing it. Maybe the named guy has it as well. I don't know if it's going to actually pop up or they're just using it. So looking at his stats, we will analyze his output because he's probably a little bit more melee oriented. 10-inch move to go along with the Death Riders. He's got 4 more wounds than them, so 7 on a 3-up save, which is better than theirs. 10 bravery, sure. Obviously, his mount does not benefit from the ability, so I got to make sure I don't accidentally add that in. All right, so it looks like he's got a command ability and a charge rule and then a command thing. Okay, so let's just do it in order. Once per turn, this unit can issue a command to a friendly OCR Bone Reapers unit without a command point being spent. Great. So you're basically getting a free CP for this guy, and if you took multiples, you'd be getting even more CPs than you're already getting. And once per turn means both. So yours and your opponent's. Cool. All right, charge bonus. After this unit makes a charge move, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of this unit and roll a number of dice equal to the unmodified charge roll for that charge move. For each 5+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. In addition, this unit, okay. This is literally the same as the rule for the Death Riders. I'm pretty sure, I'm just checking it real quick. Yeah, so he's got the same rule. When that's the case, you can often just kind of say, oh, right, this is what's going on with the mount. This is like coming from the mount because the guy on top's different. And that makes sense with the lore. When a Cavallo steed charges this foe, then yeah. All right, then his command ability. Let's take a look. You can use his command ability in your hero phase. The unit that receives the command must be a friendly OCR Bone Reapers unit. Until your next hero phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons. Okay, that's cool. Adding 1 to attacks characteristics is good. What I'm seeing in the book thus far is that their damage characteristics aren't particularly high, which means adding, if they do have a good output, it means it's coming from the attacks most likely, which means adding 1 to that isn't doing a whole lot. So for example, for him, you would be adding 1 to 5, so that would only be a 20% increase, and 1 to 6, which is only a 17% increase. So it's not really that impactful. But this is what we mean by a power pair or a power multiplier. You want this to be on as large of a unit as possible. And you'll notice that there's no range on this, right? Most command abilities got reworded so that there isn't a range because it's based off of what his role is. He's not a totem, so we know it's not by default 18. He's also not a war master, but if you make him your general, it's an 18-inch bubble. Otherwise, it's 12. Wholly within. So... okay, and then let's look at his wounds absorption. So 7 times 1.2 for the ward save is 8.4 times 3 is 25.2. Not bad. And 16.8 at Ren -1. 12.6 at Ren -2, and 10.00 or 10.08 at, yeah. Yeah, and then he's doing some amount of mortal wounds on a charge. Let's look at his attack profile, keeping in mind he doesn't get the +1 to hit, or not +1 to hit, but exploding hits on the mount. So let's do the mount first so I don't forget. That's just a simple 6 times, so this is 2.67. I've seen this so many times that I don't need to compute it anymore. And then let's go ahead and assume that he could give the command to himself. Like, let's say he's desperate. So sometimes I'll do this if it's self-contained, like he can make it happen on his own. So this would be +1 attack. So it would be just 7 attacks at that same profile, which goes up to 3.11 at -1. So like I said, not a huge improvement, but it's something. And then this profile is 10 at 20 over 36 is 5.56. That's not bad, especially considering he's also doing mortal wounds on the charge, maybe. Yeah. And then if you give him +1 attack, then it's 5 times 2. So this is an example of why that's more helpful, because he had a damage characteristic of 2, which gets, every time we increase the attacks, it goes up more. And that goes to 6.67. It's not bad. How much do I think this guy's worth? I'm kind of surprised he doesn't actually have a power pair synergy with his own Death Riders unit. That's kind of weird. I mean, other than just generic things that he already does. I'm going to say he's like 150, 160. I would be shocked if he's more than 170. Let's take a look. Where are you? Liege Cavallos. 180. Yikes. Okay, so I'm kind of comparing him to the Venari Lord Regent in Lumineth, who is 160 right now, is a 1 caster with +1 to cast, -1 to hit at all times, has a spell that's super important for your Sentinels and Wardens, and maybe Blade Lords, who's, I think, faster, definitely faster than this guy, has the same save but 1 less wound, worse bravery, I think, but I think he's got roughly the same combat profile. He might be a little worse. Doesn't have a charge thing. I'm trying to think if there's any other ability on him. But, like, honestly, Lyria Uthral, who's only 10 points more and 10 points cheaper than this guy, definitely outperforms this guy. Same abilities, but even better. Of course, he's not a G... Well, this guy's not a GC either because he's on a mount. Yeah, I think that's overpriced. I'm going to just say it. But, okay. Because I'm pretty sure Lyria Uthral also gets to issue a free command. And he's got an awesome shooting attack and weapon profile that comes with him that the other one doesn't. Yeah, I think that's overpriced. But it is what it is. It's too bad because maybe it gets made up with a command trait artifact, which we'll look at soon. But yeah, that feels a little underwhelming. So as far as I'm concerned, that's all of the generic heroes. So now it's time to go look at the command traits and artifacts.
And of course, thank you guys again for watching. We've got at least 3 more videos coming out. It might be more like 4 or 5 in this series. So it's going to be quite long. That puts us at about 10 or 11 videos in the series, which is pretty comprehensive. And it's kind of interesting to note that you see really the difference between what our Battletome reviews look like in general when we cover a new Battletome, and what it looks like when you cover like everything possible in that book that you can think of. It's quite different. Obviously, the average length for these videos is coming out to something around 40 minutes, so just do the math on that. If there's 10 of those, 400 minutes, and then, like, let's say it's 420, that's 7 hours worth of content. And, you know, that's just one person talking, just getting one person's perspective. And there's even more kind of math hammery stuff that I could have done to break this stuff down in the meantime. So it could definitely be even more involved. But anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying the series. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and keep the conversation going in the comments below or in the Discord. And until the next time, guys, thanks again. Ryan out.